This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 120. Models and Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about my painting, modeling, and wargaming experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 videos a week and you stream twice a week. How could you possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, Games Workshop dropped a whole bunch of new starter sets for multiple different games, and a new Warcry team. But first, did you know that when you're online, there's truly only one shape that matters, and that shape is a square. Space. Squarespace is the easy-to-use, all-in-one website builder and hoster that allows anyone to dive into website creation no matter how little you know about squares. Squarespace has already done all the heavy lifting. With easy-to-use, intuitive tools like their dozens of award-winning templates, their patented fluid engine system, and features like drag and drop, Squarespace provides a simple solution to creating a space of your very own online, whether your products are physical, service-based, or digital. Selling your unique merch is easier than ever with Squarespace, and it's no trouble at all to get creating a website you have always been dreaming of. Squarespace offers a free trial for you to dip your toes into and test the waters. When you're ready to dive in headfirst, you can simply use our link in the description below or type in squarespace.com/EonsOfBattle to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. The new Warhammer 40,000 starter sets have been revealed. We don't know the prices yet, but presumably they're going to be just a little bit higher than they used to be, because isn't that the old GW way? And they look pretty interesting, and I would like to compare them to some of the older sets. Now, the new baby set, the baby's first Warhammer, getting into Warhammer, dipping your toes in and seeing how you like it. At first, I was very kinda on it. You get 5 of the new Flame Troopers, and you get 10 Termagants and a Ripper Swarm base, because annoyingly, Games Workshop only put 1 Ripper Swarm base for every 10 Gaunts. Games Workshop has done this a couple of times, where they include another unit kind of inside of another unit, particularly with the Necrons and their Scarab Swarm bases. And a little bit annoyingly, they continue to do this when they revamped the old Necron Warriors, but at least you get a bunch of Scarab Swarms. With the Gaunts, you only get 1, and you need 3 to actually make a proper squad, so it's actually really hard to get a good number of Ripper Swarms. But the new set is very different from the old set, because the old set you got a fair number of miniatures, 10 Necron Warriors, 3 Scarab Swarm bases, and the Royal Warden, and for the Space Marine half, you got 5 Assault Intercessors and the Captain, or the Lieutenant. And that's a lot more miniatures, and it's arguable if which models are actually cooler or not. But now that I think about it, I actually really do like the inclusion of some paint, nippers, and a brush, because you need those things. You don't necessarily know about those things, and if you're getting your very first Warhammer, like the hobby aspect is almost a much bigger aspect than the gaming aspect. Way more people collect, build, and paint Warhammer than actually play the game. So I think the very basic introductory set, I think that's a really good inclusion, and they only give you 5 colors, and I would be really tempted to buy this set and try to see how close I could get to the box art with just the paints provided, because it's pretty clear they just took the Heavy Metal Studio models and put them in front of the box. Like, those models are not painted with specifically those colors, but I bet you could get awfully close. Like, if you did tons and tons of mixing, I like the new starter set a lot. The old starter set, the interesting thing is they actually could use the box insert as its own little terrain building. It's kind of a neat idea. I don't know if anybody cared at all, but it was kind of cute. Now, the medium starter set is where things get interesting. You get a lot more miniatures, and you get, I guess, either 2 inserts, or I guess there's probably still 1 box insert that you can turn into a larger building. And I just think the old mat, like the old paper mat that nobody ever played on because you could never in a million years get it to actually lay flat. I know some people laminated them, and I suppose that's like an okay way of doing it, but nobody took the shiny plasticky mat and like got it flat enough to play on. It was just kind of a nice thing to have in the box, as like maybe you could play on it, but nobody ever did. And at least the old one was kind of some nice interesting rubble. The new one is brown. It's like some brown sand, like somebody took like their kid's sandbox, kind of wiggled their hand around it to make a little bit of texture, and then took a picture. Like, I don't understand, if you're gonna have something printed, it doesn't become easier or harder based on what the picture is. Like, the printer just prints it. So why not go nuts? Like, why not do a really cool looking board with like rivers and rocks and grass and all of this stuff going on? Why just have it be brown? It just feels kind of lame. Like, nobody cares what the plastic mat looks like, but it just feels awkward. Although the miniatures do not feel awkward. You get a pretty darn good selection of the models from Leviathan. You get pretty much everything. You're missing some of the big bugs and quite a few of the Space Marines because there's not actually that many Space Marines in Leviathan. But if you want to get these minis, I think this is probably the way to do it with the medium set, depending on what the price is, but presumably the price is going to be a fair bit lower than what buying all of these units separately would be. And speaking of buying units separately, I have been trolling eBay because now the 10th edition is out proper and I have been doing nothing but going through the indexes. I have been hunting eBay for all of the units that I want. There are no deals to be had. Everything is absolutely picked clean. Even on like the Games Workshop web store, almost every single Tyranid unit is out of stock. There's like 30 some Tyranid units and there's 9 that are in stock still. And it's none of the ones that people would actually want. But if you actually want to pick up anything from Leviathan, now is the time, because similarly to the previous box, those models are going for cheap. I already got some more Barbgons and some more Von Ryan's Leapers, and hopefully with these starter sets coming out, they're gonna either get cheaper or at least stay cheap for the foreseeable future, which is awesome because Terminators are in there. And if Terminators are actually reasonably priced, that would be amazing. Oh, I want so many Terminators. I already have a lot of Terminators, but they're a little bit short. I need the new Terminators so that they're just a little bit taller. Super, super cool. Now, where the new starter sets differ a lot for me, comparing the new ones to the old ones, is in the final biggest you get terrain, you get everything box, because the old one was gorgeous. You got a little bit of the Promethean pipeline. I think the Promethean pump station buildings that look beautiful, and they actually have like sockets so that you can attach the Promethean pipes to them. Like the terrain, even though you don't get that much of it, it looks really good and it kind of works together really well. The new terrain is fences and a box. It's a box-shaped building, but man, oh man, Games Workshop has made a lot of terrain and a lot of really cool terrain. I feel like they picked the weakest of the terrain because holy cow, it's just squares. It's just squares, no rubble. I guess they're walls. There's so much awesome terrain out there that they could have pulled from for the big awesome box, and instead they went with a couple of squares. It's fine. The models are very exciting, and to get the Psychophage in there is really, really cool. But man, if you said you have to get either the new starter set or the old starter set, I would say I would get the old one because the terrain was really cool. And of course, the models are excellent. You get some really, really good picks. They're about the same. The new box does come with a lot more miniatures, but a lot of them are gaunts. You know, you're gonna get more of them because they're a much cheaper unit. Ooh, and the Barbgons are included, which is a really nice inclusion because the Barbgons are excellent. They're very, very powerful. A really good inclusion in a Tyranid army. And once again, the Terminators. I hope they stay cheap online. It's okay. All of these new starter sets, particularly the first one, I really enjoy, and I think that they're a good replacement for the old set. I do like that they're Xenos, because the Xenos don't get enough love. The Necrons got their love in like 13 new miniatures when that box came out, and now it is the Tyranids' turn to get lots and lots of love from Games Workshop. And I'm starting a Tyranid army, so super good for me. But Warhammer 40k was not the only game to get a brand new starter set. There is a new set for Warcry, and I really dig it. I like Warcry a lot. It's a really fun game. It's very similar to Kill Team, but in a lot of ways very different. Particularly, Kill Team is a game of shooting, positioning and shooting, and it's very easy to one-shot operatives. Where Warcry, it's much more of a close combat focused game, and so then I think the game actually takes a lot better advantage of movement. Because if you actually have to go and tag other players, you have to focus a lot more on movement, not just vantage points and lines of sight. Because every now and then when you're playing Kill Team, you all of a sudden discover, oh, there's a beautiful firing lane right here on the board, and so somebody as sniper or gunner operatives can just set up shop and the game is over, essentially. Every now and then that happens. Kill Team. Kill Team is like the best game ever, but sometimes it's a little too competitive for its own good. Warcry is excellent. Warcry is a little bit sillier, and the new Warcry starter set is very small, and I like that about it. You get a couple of walls, you get a very interesting statue, and you get 2 incredibly small Warcry teams with the Stormcast Eternals and the Vampires. These vampires are mega popular with super high quality painting. At Adepticon Golden Demon, I saw so many of these little 4 vampire dudes hanging out. Very, very nicely painted. But I think that this starter set is really great because it's so small, it's easy to travel with. I mean, you could just put all of this into a lunchbox. Just get yourself like a Hello Kitty lunchbox or something, appropriate for the themes and settings of Age of Sigmar. And you got everything you need. You can throw the dice in there. I really want to play with this starter set, especially because I really like this little game called Relic Blade. Relic Blade is very similar. It's very small. It's got a very small amount of miniatures. There's not an incredible amount of rules to it. There's a fair few like universal special rules and stuff, but it plays very, very quickly. It does feel like a game that you can kind of stick in your pocket and bring anywhere, which is a lovely place for a war game to be. Usually war games are kind of in the vein of Warhammer 40k or even Kill Team, where you need a lot of stuff. I remember playing tons and tons of X-Wing, and X-Wing kind of billed itself as a little more of like a kitchen table game, but still every time I would drive to my friend's house, I had armfuls of boxes to bring all of the cards and tokens and miniatures. And the Warcry and Kill Team are pretty much in the same boat. But if you wanted to bring this game to a friend's house, I think that this is a much easier ask. Because that's what I'm always thinking of. It's easy to get your friends who are like already like 40k and stuff to play a game, but I'm talking about civilians. People who they've played Exploding Kittens and Cards Against Humanity, but they don't know what this is. They don't know the deep, dark horrors of tabletop wargaming. But if you plunk down just this lovely set of models and terrain and a little bit of dice, maybe a small tape measure, I think it's a much easier ask to get people to dip their toes and try this. Oh, and this set also comes with that little bird that Games Workshop tried to make us like. Because we all remember the classic crab that almost became Miniature of the Year. And I'd like to think that it was voted Miniature of the Year, but Games Workshop's like, we can't let that happen. And so they just switched it with Be'lakor. But the old Warcry crab, one of the best things ever. And then Games Workshop just thought, oh, well, maybe we can do that again. Hey, everybody, look, this set comes with a bird. Nobody cared about the bird. It's a cool bird, but it was no crab. Sometimes lightning just strikes and a meme is born. I need to get one of those crabs just for the lulz. I really dig this set. I think my favorite, I don't know which piece of terrain is my favorite. It's either the statue or the sarcophagus. The sarcophagus with like blood, just like a giant vat of blood next to it with this really great gothic like brass bat. It's really lovely. And unfortunately that really cool board is probably just going to be a piece of paper, but that mat looks really good. I think Games Workshop is missing out on neoprene battle mats. They made one back in the day. I forget what set it was for, but actually technically they made 2, because if anybody remembers a little game called Dreadfleet, they made like a blanket. I don't remember if it was like made of fleece or what it was, but it actually had a printed ocean on it with some little ghosties and some little whirlpools and stuff. It was really cool. I'd love a copy of Dreadfleet. I always wanted to give that game a try. I remember my old comic book shop used to have one dusty box in the corner, and I didn't have money back then because it was kind of expensive, but I almost wish I pulled the trigger on it because it was a really, really cool little game. And I really like Mantic's Armada, which is another boat game, so there's something about boats. I like a good boat. But man, if they sold this design as a neoprene mat, or just compare this design to the new starter set design, which is just brown dirt. I mean, clearly somebody took some serious time and care into designing this with all of the patches of snow and the little tombs that are chained down to the floor and the cracks that are kind of glowing just a little bit like there's a little bit of magic under the ground. They tried really hard on this, which is great. I always love to see the effort. And of course, if you scroll down just a little bit, you see the Heavy Metal team or the Games Workshop Terrain team and what they've managed to do, which is got some really interesting snow and rock formations and stuff. It looks absolutely lovely. In the background, you can see the old Sigmarite mausoleum, which is absolutely gorgeous. Some of the best terrain that Games Workshop has ever made. I really like it. And boy, howdy, that statue is really something. I love that it's got two little cubbies for candles. It's just nice. I just really like this set of terrain, and I think it actually matches well with the armies involved. Like a small number of Stormcast Eternals with their cloaks on and some vampires. I think it all just paints a really nice picture. It all works well together, which is kind of something I can't say about the Games Workshop 40k starter sets. Like, all of the pieces are there, but it's not really sculpted well together. Like, they took assets and made them into a starter set, and that's all they really have to be. They don't have to be something like really pretty. I wonder though, is there a market, or is there a way for Games Workshop, like let's say we took this Warcry starter set and we made it like a board game, because when you buy a really nice high quality board game, it comes with like vacuum formed plastic that holds all of your cards and dice and game pieces in a specific way, so it all fits in that box and it can all go back into that box nice and easy. Would there be something to Games Workshop making some of these starter sets like that, where everything fits into the box properly and you can have it on the shelf and it's ready to rock and roll, as opposed to this studio where we have every game available to play, but every piece of everything is squirreled away on every single corner. The dice, I do not know where the dice for Armada are. They might be in the box still, I don't really remember. It's a project getting games ready to go, but if they all were self-contained within the box, and not just like turn the box upside down and use it as a tray, which is what everybody does because it works great. But I wonder if there would be something to that, because, you know, people get into these games, and when they dive into these games, I wonder how quickly they discover it's a disaster. It is very hard to keep track of everything and know where everything is and all the things that you need. You know, you should probably have a little tube of super glue with your army at all times, because you never know when one of the guns or spikes is gonna snap off. Like all those little things. I always wonder. And every single game, every company takes after Games Workshop. However Games Workshop does something is how everybody else does something. Because I can't think of any tabletop war games that have like a really nice system like board games have, where it all packs away nicely in the box. There's some companies that will laser cut foam for you to fill boxes very nicely. In fact, I saw a lovely set for the actual Leviathan box that actually you have to take the box and leave it open a little bit. Like, you don't let it slide all the way shut, because I think there's like 3 layers of foam to get all the miniatures in there. So there's stuff like that. I almost bought a set of foam for a board game that I really, really love called Nemesis. But actually, the board game Nemesis comes with vacuum formed plastic that works really well to hold everything. So I would love to know. I would love to see somebody, Games Workshop or somebody else, try out like letting everything just nest properly. And speaking of Warcry, not only did Warcry get a new starter set, but they got a new team. The new Warcry warband comes with the Kruelboyz, which seems to be a fairly unpopular faction in Age of Sigmar. Although tons and tons of people have it, because the Dominion box was excellent, and that was the first time you could get the Kruelboyz, and all the models are absolutely gorgeous. But I think it was a combination of, they're quite a bit like the orcs, to the point where, you know, people who already don't collect orcs probably aren't going to get into the Kruelboyz because they're still very orky. And people who do collect orcs are probably like, well, I don't want more almost orcs. I want to collect the orcs. And it probably didn't help that their rules were pretty garbage. All of those things kind of conspired to let the Kruelboyz just kind of exist on the sidelines a little bit. But it doesn't really matter in Warcry, because you're not collecting an entire force of them. You're just collecting a few models. And these models are really, really fun. at my first time scanning over these bad boys, I'm like, yeah, these guys are pretty darn cool. You got the little stabba guys, you've got somebody holding an egg, but there's monkeys. There's 2 little monkeys. I absolutely love them. They're like vicious, evil baboons. They look amazing. I have a couple of Warcry teams, and I really, really want to build some warbands that are actually out of the index rules, where I can just take random units from the Age of Sigmar and kind of build it however I want. But there's a couple of teams out there that have really caught my eye. I would like to get this team and paint them up, because I feel like it's an excellent excuse to do all sorts of nasty things like goo and like still stale pond water and blood, and the textures are all incredible. These little boutique projects look like so much fun. It's one of the reasons why I love Kill Team so much, is because I get to pick up a small number of models, and I can kind of do whatever I want to those models, knowing I'm never gonna have to do it again. So it kind of frees me up to try some things that might be, I don't necessarily know what I'm doing, or I know it's gonna take a very long time, but no matter how long it takes, it's only a couple of models, so it's not that big a deal. Man, I love these guys, and the monkeys. The monkeys. I mean, yes, they're the smallest part of this box. The Kruelboyz are clearly like the big showstopper, especially the monster hunter with his unbelievable numbers of trophies. And some sort of a squig. I think it's part of his shield, but I like to think it's actually like a squig type of squig on his shoulder, because there's every type of squig under the sun. There's like bear trap squigs, worm squigs, snail squigs. Everything you can think of exists in the squig species. Hair squigs, where literally it's a ponytail with the mouth on it, and you just like let it bite the top of your head, and now you have a ponytail. I love the orcs. The orcs are absolutely wonderful. And this kill team is excellent. It's so much fun. I also love that they're like wearing Seraphon skins, which is so nasty because the Seraphon are people. They're folks. They're full-on fellas. And yeah, wearing them like a jacket is extra cruel. And you could say these are the Kruelboyz for doing something like that. I don't know. I love these models a lot. I like the guy holding an egg. He just really got his arms around it. Man, Warcry looks like so much fun. There is so much stuff out there, I can hardly keep track of it. But you know what I can keep track of? That's right, our Patreon. Over there, we have a brand new STL terrain set every single month. This month, we have the Hive Colony, a full battlefield full of alien organisms. Perfect complement to your new Tyranids from the Leviathan box. Over there, we also make extra episodes of Eons of Battle every single week. We host live Discord hangouts, and we have a tier where you can get your name on one of my Black Templar Space Marines, and you can join the crusade. We also stream twice a week on Twitch from 5:30 to 8 p.m. Central Time on Tuesdays and Thursdays. All of the new releases from Games Workshop are looking pretty darn cool. I particularly have my eye on that new starter set with the paints, because I want to see if Games Workshop is doing a little bit of false advertising. I bet you can get close to those models that are on the box, but definitely not those exact models with those paints, and I want to give it a try. But that's for another day. Thanks for watching.